Good morning to everyone. Dear distinguished guests, it's a pleasure for me to open this event here in this beautiful city of Nice. I trust you had a pleasant trip, and it seems that you will have the opportunity to use your brain and your heart during this 2 or 3 days. So I'm sure you will come home, back home, full of positive energy for the future. And this is what this conference is about, our common future. So to do that, I propose that we share facts, share questions, because as scientists we love to share facts and questions. We strive on that. We need questions to push the envelope of knowledge, but also to share solutions, because of course as scientists doing applied research, we want to be able to propose socio-economic turnkey solutions, and that's what this conference is about too. So let's start with facts. What are the facts about sustainability? You know that our planet faces tremendous issues, socio-economic, environmental issues. We all know that. A few weeks, last week in New York, the governments from all the countries met to discuss global issues on climate change. And next year in November in France, there will be the COP21, where again the governments are going to decide on new actions to mitigate the impact of climate change. And you know that in their latest report, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, assessed that 32% of the final energy at the global level is used in buildings, and it accounts for 19% of the greenhouse gases emissions. And together, if you add buildings and mobility, it will be more than 33% of the global emissions that are due to cities and places. So you see, it's 1/3 of this global problem that we are going to be speaking about during these 2 days of conference. And during the same time that we have this global emissions issues, the world population grows, which is a good thing. We're growing in age and numbers, which means more people are living better and longer. But also at the same time, there is a slowdown in the economy, which is putting a lot of pressure on our developing models. So that's the facts that we share at the global level. And what is very interesting is that very quickly these global issues translate in local solutions. So that's what we're going to speak about during this event. So to follow on the facts, after this very global introduction made quickly, I also want to quickly introduce myself and CSTB. A few words. What is CSTB? You know, CSTB is the Center for Science and Technology in Buildings. I'm sure a lot of you know CSTB because we have partnership, and maybe you know some of the activities we do. And I would like to provide you with a more comprehensive view of all our activities. So as CEO of CSTB, it is my pleasure to manage a collaborative platform for innovation in sustainable construction. Very practically, we operate 4 activities. We operate R&D, expertise, third-party assessment, and knowledge dissemination. And for us, it is very important that these activities connect together, because they facilitate the innovation cycle. From the idea to the market, and from the market to the idea, because we know that innovation does not just flow from R&D to the market. There are a lot of innovation coming from the market that creates new questions to the R&D. And as CSTB platform, we want to be a one-stop shop for all the businesses or public authorities that have questions and need scientific answers to the questions. And we do that thanks to our labs and about 1,000 staff, but also thanks to all the experts we are working with through projects and committees. So thanks to about 3,000 people working with us during all year long. So that's why we are very involved in research networks at the European level, especially the CTP and the E2BA, because we know there are a lot of very important interrelated expertise in your companies and laboratories all over Europe. And it's very important to connect talents. Connecting talents create value. And we know that we will need all these talents because we have important questions to answer when we are dealing with buildings. Very specific thing in buildings is that in buildings we want it all. Of course we want energy efficiency, and that's a very important point. But of course the primary concern on buildings is safety and health. We shall never forget that in building science, of course, we work about buildings, but we do not work for buildings. We work for the people who are going to live in the buildings. So that's why the first question I'd like to share with you is, are sustainable buildings really healthy? We know that as energy efficiency drives more insulation, more airtightness of the envelope, then it raises new questions on the indoor air quality. And to answer that kind of question, CSTB has top-notch scientific teams and labs working on health issues. And for example, one deliverable I'd like to share with you is that we developed a special device called Lumiere, providing an indicator of the indoor air quality. That device helps the inhabitants to decide what to do if they shall turn on the ventilation or to be aware of the situation. Another question I'd like to share with you, are sustainable buildings safe? And maybe on the other one. It's a very broad question, but you know that as we want to lower the environmental impacts, this stimulates new techniques on new materials, or we want to use less material in the buildings. But still, there is a need to make sure that the structure keeps resistance, proper resistance, under seismic or fire conditions. So on safety issues too, CSTB has top-notch scientific teams and international level research equipment, such as wind tunnels and fire labs. And that equipment and teams, of course, they are here to operate with your teams, your companies, your labs, if you need also to do research on this kind of things. And our latest baby is Vulcan, a world-class facility for big-sized structures, testing of fire resistance. So another question I'd like to share with you is, okay, can IT help to build buildings? And of course, as there is more and more complexity to deal with, IT does not only help, it is the only way. So we have also top-notch scientific teams here in Nice, in Sophia Antipolis and Marne-la-Vallée, working on the latest software and tools to resolve difficult equations and deal with the big data. And I'm sure you know the digital revolution is really ongoing now in the construction sector. I'd love to say that the construction sector has always innovated, but it was doing that a little bit behind the scene. Everybody was innovating, but not saying it too much, because a building must last. So most people prefer to speak about tradition and how durability was good. But now, when you innovate in one part, for instance energy efficiency, it has an impact on some other parts, acoustics or fire resistance, as I mentioned. So it's very important that people communicate about what they are doing from one field to another field. So there is really now a strong need to communicate more and to develop communication about innovation. So ICT is going to be a great help to make that possible, so that people communicate better and it will allow exciting breakthrough. I really believe we have been talking about ICT in the building for years in the research area, but it's coming now. It's coming really now, close to the market. So let's come back to the environmental driver of change, because if there is this big revolution, it's also because we want to build differently, we want buildings to be more efficient. So are the sustainable buildings really green? What do we mean by that? Do we mean in a quick way, do they have lower environmental impacts? And it is, again, a very holistic view that is needed to tackle this kind of question. And it's very important then to achieve connecting, again, people, different stakeholders to be able to answer that kind of question. To connect not only research, multidisciplinary approaches, but also connect with the market. We really need to understand how things are done really on the market. So there are different ways CSTB is working on connecting research to markets and markets back to research. The first example I'd like to share with you is Efficacity. It's a project that was just launched in France to stimulate public and private R&D partnership in the field of urban energy efficiency. It's going to be a very big project, one of the biggest French programs in that field. It is really driven by the companies, and the academic partners are helping this project to provide results. At the European level, CSTB is partnering in several different projects. A lot of them will be presented during this event. I just want to point out the project EEBCA2. Is that how you pronounce it? Or, it's our first Horizon 2020 project, and it's a special project because it's innovative in that sense that it tackles the holistic approach, because it is going to be a clustering program, so it will try to develop metrics or data models that will make possible for projects to communicate with each other. So again, it's very important to establish dialogues between projects. It's really how the construction revolution is going to be achieved. It's really about transcultural dialogue. And another project I would like to tell you about is City Out. This is an FP7 project. And it's a great example of how global issues connect to local solutions, and the local solution was implemented here in this area. And it's very interesting because it really connects these big global issues, scientific issues, with inhabitants, and the way people can also be actors of energy efficiency and electricity demand by their own behavior. So the last example I'd like to share with you on this introduction, last but not least, is the Solar Decathlon Europe. The Solar Decathlon is an international competition that was invented by the US to challenge students to build real, full-scale solar homes. And in 2014, the French government agreed with the American government to organize this competition in France, in Versailles. And the French government mandated CSTB to organize the competition. We benefited from the experience of the Madrid team there was also a solar decathlon organized in 2012 in Madrid, and also we benefited from the experience of the French winner team from Grenoble. They won the competition in 2012. And thanks to this feedback and experience of the previous competitions, we quite thoroughly rebuilt the rules of the competition to enlarge the scope with a more holistic view. So now the competition is not only about solar homes, it's really about sustainable places. So the best way to speak about this competition, I think, is to leave the floor to the competitors themselves. So I will launch for you a little movie explaining.
We have big problems in the city, and we cannot think only of one building. We have to think about the whole city, about the environment.
There's a need for reduced resource consumption.
In the end, sustainability starts and ends with the user.
And I think this is the challenge of this competition, to interact with the environment and with the whole city.
The Solar Decathlon challenges universities and schools around the world to compete and build a net zero energy powered home. I love a lot of the other houses here. One of the main reasons I did this is because you get to see 19 other ways to approach this competition. Ce qui est intéressant dans le Solar Decathlon, notamment dans cette édition 2014, c'est que nous avons une richesse au niveau de la provenance des prototypes.
Some of them are retrofits, some of them are additions to existing buildings, some are new buildings, some are trying to deal with disasters.
I think this experience taught all of us what it's like to work on a team. Something that you learn that's really important in engineering school is that you can't do your homework by yourself.
It's really important to work with other careers as a team, because that's real life.
It's a lesson learned about meeting your deadlines, for instance, how important it is.
20 teams of 16 countries are all sharing that same idea. This has been wonderful, learning from our neighbors, doing that cultural exchange, and the homes have been really awesome too.
So amazing, after 2 years working very hard on this project, to see the public, to see the emotions they bring into this building.
It's about education, learning, and discovery, not as a contest, but as a method of teaching and learning.
It's not really competitive, we're more like one big team.
It is a nerve-wracking experience. You know, you've worked so hard, and getting 20 minutes to sum it all up to a jury can be a really challenging thing.
People, they have to rethink about the basic idea, basic thinking about architecture. So it's the chance.
It is surprising, if you work hard, if you distill your message, it is surprising how few English words you actually need to capture interest in your project.
It's really great to have people who really know what they're doing and come through and talk to you about something that you've been putting your life into for the last 2 years.
Pas uniquement un problème d'équipement, mais de saine conception assez sobre en énergie.
Well, definitely, we started to feel at home in this house now, especially after the jury visits are all finished and all the pressure is away, you know.
On regarde particulièrement des solutions construites qui satisfassent aussi bien des critères architecturaux que constructifs.
I don't think it's the first generation that look at sustainability, but I think it's the first generation that's being forced to look at sustainability. Before people looked at it, it's a point of interest, it's a personal value.
C'est un nouveau jury qui s'intéresse pas seulement à la maison, à l'environnement de la maison.
Affordability is almost a social dimension. It has to do with whether people at a certain socioeconomic income group can afford the building that you offer.
Competitions between Europe and the United States are quite a bit different. There is a whole lot more focus on community, on socialization here at the European competition.
I really feel so nervous, I'm shaking.
We do the best for us, but
we are a winner, of course. Everyone is a winner. That's the main point.
It is so inspiring what you do, so congratulations on all the hard work and the wonderful, wonderful houses that you designed and built.
The prize goes to Team Dan.
In the Netherlands we have 1.4 million energy-consuming row houses from the 60s, and with this pavilion we show a solution for these row houses by putting over a second skin.
The second prize goes to Atlantic Channel.
Le résultat, c'est plus que cette serre, c'est tout ce prototype qui est une extraction en fait de la réhabilitation d'un bâtiment à Nantes.
People that is here have done something very special for their capacity to build a house in 10 days. That is something incredible.
Il faut absolument que nous ayons un Solar Decathlon 2016. Nous y travaillons d'arrache-pied pour que d'autres équipes européennes prennent la suite.
Tous sont bienvenus, qu'ils fabriquent des meubles ou des outils électroniques. Et c'est cette rencontre incroyable de culture technique, de savoir-faire qui fait la richesse du Solar Decathlon.
I'm extremely honored to be part of the Solar Decathlon 2014.
I can say that I really learned a lot from this whole project. I learned way more than in any of the courses within my master.
That's your baby, you know. That's fascinating, and it remains fascinating all the professional life now.
They'll really change a whole generation.
I believe that the Solar Decathlon experience, the whole 2 years, completely changed my look at architecture in general. Here is the real world. This is this professional world. It's just been amazing. This has really been the most unbelievable experience of my life.
You see, that was a very exciting and inspiring experience for all the participants. It was very interesting to see how this holistic view and approach really delivered a diversity of solutions. Here you can understand the different KPIs that were used for the competition, the 10 contests in big categories, and you will find a lot of more information if you want on the website, of course. What I'd like to share with you is that the results were really impressive. These full-scale pilots, they were really houses and flats you would love to live in. They were new and retrofit buildings, adapted to the local issues, be it in Chile or Japan or Europe. And these buildings, most of them, 17 of them were positive energy buildings that produced even twice more than they consumed, although they were intentionally restricted to 5 kilowatt peak of production. So they were really very efficient buildings, and they produced really well, although there was rain during 1 week out of the 2 weeks. So they were very, very performant buildings. So very impressive results. Really, all the projects were really good, and the winner was the Italian team with the Rome project. Really a wonderful project. So again, you can find a lot of more information on the website, and they were really great projects. So after such enthusiasm shared and success that you've seen, let me come back to reiterate my first facts, the big expectations that we have. And just I'd like to share another fact that is a more maybe sadder fact, is that when we try to estimate at the European level the amount of investment in R&D, be it private or public, this is an estimation, but still, when we try our best to estimate all this amount of money, today we estimate about it is less than 0.5%. So less than 0.5% of GDP of the construction sector is invested in innovation and R&D. This is very far from the Lisbon objectives of 3% to be a really innovative society. So that really leads me to one of my last questions. Is it enough? Are we doing enough? This is a question I'd like to share with you for the coming days and weeks. So you understand my message. This is today. This event is a place to be. It is going to be a very precious moment, as Holly said. I think it's very important for you to take the opportunity to meet and share your questions, share your knowledge, share your solutions. A big part of the CSTB Dream Team will be attending the meeting or produce papers or will attend the workshop. So I want to thank my CSTB team for that. And I would like to give special thanks to Zia and Regis, who co-organized this event with our partner Sigma and CER. And also I'd like to thank, of course, all the sponsors of this event. Special thanks to the EC and to this metropolitan area. Special thank to the resilient and performant partners and all the participants. I hope you really tackle the challenges that are ahead of us and enjoy the meeting.